This video is a little late, to say the least. The GMTK 2025 Game Jam happened about a couple months ago, but I have an excuse. I got really sick and then I had exams, but I'm finally able to make this video. So after the failure of my first commercial project, Holy Mackerel, I really needed to prove that I'm actually a good game developer and not some just imposter. So like the title of this video says, I joined the 2025 GMTK Game Jam. And thankfully, I wasn't alone. Shwooken, who is a very skilled pixel artist, like this guy is on another level, bro, originally brought up the idea of doing a game jam together. I would do the code and he would do the art. The only missing piece was a musician, and thankfully my close friend Coding Lama was happy to team up. And that was our team for the game jam. The theme was announced Thursday 5 AM for me, so I woke up greeted with the theme, loot. Just one word, which was pretty weird compared to the last game jams I've done. I was half asleep and unfortunately had to go to school, but I spent most of the day brainstorming. Me and Coding Lama came up with a couple ideas. One joking about a Fruit Loop themed game, but mainly focusing on a game where you play as a creature with a very short lifespan that turns to stone when it dies, letting your next life use your past self as a platform. Once we got home, we hopped on a call with Shwooken, and Shwooken insisted that we make a game about Fruit Loops, even though it was barely fleshed out, because he believed he could make it look really vibrant and visually appealing. Knowing that Shwooken was our secret weapon as a great artist, we decided to go with it, and combined both ideas, turning it into a game with a Fruit Loops theme with a platforming life cycle gameplay. The first day ended with no progress, but at least we had a solid idea. Friday rolled around and after school we all hopped on call and got to work. My goal for the second day was to finish a player controller. I'd never even experimented with the platformer game in Unity until now, so I was surprised how fast I managed to get the core basics done. I had a basic controller with all the features any platformer should have, like coyote time, jump buffers, variable jump heights, fast falling and whatnot. Eventually Shwooken did finish the art and oh my, what the fuck is this kid eating? Because holy shit, it's beautiful. Like, I'm surprised we haven't even been sued at this point. And Kellogg's, if you're watching this, what have you, Fruit Loops? Huh? Who's that? Never heard of him. Huh? Anyways, I then added a basic animation controller, which just has 3 animations. Falling, run, and idle. Just the basics. Like I said. I then added the hands as separate game objects, which I then made lag behind the player, along with a vertical sine wave for a running animation. Shwooken really wanted me to add squash and stretch, which I'd only ever experimented with, so I was fairly hesitant to be honest, but I gave it a shot anyways, and oh boy was I right to be hesitant, it was a pain in the ass. I set up a vector 2 which stored velocities for the scale, which would be added to the player's scale each frame. I could add values to the velocity vector and then apply drag to the values along with a force that tried to bring the scale back to its native 1-1. For example, when the player landed, I would apply a 2 and -2 to the vector, and that would stretch it horizontally and squish it vertically. And slowly the drag would bring that vector down to a 0-0, and then the code would natively try and squish it back to 1-1. That sounds fairly simple, which it was. A little too simple, because it came with a few issues. Unity scales objects from the center, so when the player squashed vertically, their feet would lift off the ground. That completely broke my grounded checks and animation transitions. The player would spasm between grounded and falling animations, and even double jump because the scale would make the player touch the ground again after the first jump. Unfortunately, I wasn't aware that you could change where Unity scales from, so I then spent the next at least 2 hours changing my code to offset the player's position based on its scale.
I'm gonna bust a nut. It's so cute.
Bro. Right, we just submit this. This is the game. This is the game.
No, this is game, yeah. We're just gonna submit this.
Alright, great work guys. We did have a late start due to school, but by the end of day 2, we had a polished responsive player controller, fully integrated animations, functional squash and stretch, and beautiful art already in the engine. Overall, a solid start, but we knew we had to pick up pace if we wanted to finish in time. Thankfully I had no school, so I woke up early on Saturday morning and got straight into development. Shwooken was still asleep and would be sleeping for another few hours due to time zone, so I set up the functionality for the main mechanic. I created a separate script called Player Manager, which will manage their checkpoints and how much time they have before dying. It was fairly easy to make the player drop a fruit loop upon death and then respawn them at the last checkpoint they touched. And just like that, we already had the core mechanics. You could create staircases, towers, bridges. Shwooken then sent me the tile map, which had many versions. I implemented even more art like the nest, a foreground tile set, and props, which left me with enough assets to start the first section of the game. It acts as the tutorial, which teaches you the many ways you can use your platforms. And while I was doing that, Shwooken was making one of the best looking menus I've ever seen. I mean, look at it. This kid, he's on another level. I'm telling you, he's not human. On to day 4, which was the last day I would actually be able to work on the game. And just like day 3, I woke up before everyone else and started to create the chocolate milk ability. I wanted to expand upon the base gameplay by giving the player the ability to break certain walls and pass fruit loops they placed. I did this through a power-up, which would affect your next generation upon collection. I recolored the hands really quickly and made a simple sine wave animation for when the player clicks to make it look like they're punching. Game objects with the tag breakable will delete themselves if punched, which includes the breakable wall and fruit loops. This allowed me to make slightly more complex puzzles to try and keep the player engaged. While I waited for Shwooken to wake up, I implemented some of the sound effects Coding Llama had made, and my personal favourite being the death sound effect. And I also implemented the music he made. It's actually playing in the background right now. It sounds ridiculously good. These kids, why are they so good at this? Once Shwooken woke up, he sent me over some more vibrant art for the UI. The player has 3 main UI elements: the life meter, represented by the bar in the top left, the height meter, represented by the bar in the bottom left, and the death counter in the top right, which is paired with a timer for anyone trying to speedrun it. I somehow managed to get another close friend of mine, Mr. Whiskey, to create some puzzles and sections while I added a settings and credits menu. By this point, I had a backlog of art from Shwooken that I needed to implement. Stuff like the breakable wall, a stunning parallaxing background, a wind-up Tango the toucan, tutorial text, ending, and even more props. It was about 6:30 at this point, and I had to get off around 9 because I had school the next day. So I decided to add a pause menu, and oh boy was that a mistake. I had many frustrating issues with the pause menu, and by the time I had it functioning, it was already 9 PM. After I finally uploaded the project to itch.io without any issues, I went to have a shower. I was greeted with many issues once I came back, that came from Shwooken and Coding Llama. They had found soft locks, unnecessarily difficult puzzles, and the music settings weren't even working. Even worse, one of the most important buttons to stop the player from getting themselves stuck wasn't working. I went into full debug mode and spent another hour solving the issues, and it was safe to say I was very burnt out and tired by the time we had a mostly bug-free game on itch. Eventually, voting ended and I was greeted with a fairly decent score. Clearly, Shwooken's art was very well liked, and so was Coding Llama's music and SFX. While there really wasn't a score directly related to what I did, I was still proud to just even finish the game jam, man. It was rough. But I'll let you decide your opinion on the game, which you can play for free on your browser. I have linked it in the description. And yeah, that's how the game jam went for us. If you enjoyed this, maybe leave a like, comment, or subscribe if you want to see more game dev videos. And thanks for watching.